At this point, I'd like to clear the floor for our first speaker. And just again, Amy just mentioned, please hold your questions. We're gonna, after all the panels, the speakers finish their presentations, we're gonna spend some time on all questions, answers, newly arising questions, newly arising points that the speakers want to make, and so forth. So please, with that, Audrey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Uwe. And thank you, students, for attending. I'm really excited to be here. That is not what I wanted to share. Here we go. Here we are.
When you engage sharing, Audrey, then it basically asks you on a different screen what you want to share, and then you still on the lower right-hand corner you need to click. What is it? I don't know. Share now or whatever.
Okay, I found it.
Cool.
All right, and I'm going to move it into presentation mode. Okay, so happy to be here. My name is Audrey Mcsherry. I've been with AstraZeneca since March of 2018.
Audrey, just a second. We can't see your slides yet. I apologize for interrupting.
Oh.
Maybe it's only my computer. Oh, now we're going. Okay, cool.
It says I'm sharing. Okay.
Excellent. It's perfect.
So been with AstraZeneca for about 4 years now. And for the most part, I've been supporting, I'm in talent acquisition. I'm a talent acquisition partner. And I've been supporting early oncology, drug discovery, drug development. So I thought that would be the area that I could best convey to you guys what we look for, what we see, how you can make yourself stand out. So I like to start about talking about AstraZeneca oncology R&D. So we've got 2 R&D groups. The one is respiratory cardiovascular, and the COVID vaccine fell under that group. And I've been supporting oncology R&D, which includes all solid tumors, but also hematological cancers. And we'll talk more in depth about what that group entails. But what's most important in this discussion is, how are you going to present yourself when you come to AstraZeneca for a job that you might find on our website? And one of the things that we look for when we're spending time with candidates is, do they have a positive spirit? Do they look like they're going to be collaborative and work well with others? And we do that by observing behaviors. But another big thing is, what is their motivation for wanting to join AstraZeneca at this time? And that tells us a whole lot about what's motivating them for a new career, and do we have what they're looking for? So it's really important to think about how you would answer that question before you get an interview. One idea is to go on the company's website and look at their values that they have posted there, and make sure when you're talking about yourself and your motivation, for any truth that exists between your own value and the company value that you share, that would be great to bring up. One more thing on you. I myself have had a career in talent acquisition, but also as an HR business partner.
Hey, Brittany, should be the barbecue chicken and then like make your own. Thank you. Have a good one.
And I like to joke around saying that I'm much better at saying hello than saying goodbye. So I've ended up in talent acquisition versus HR. But when I was in a job search, I had 2 resumes, and they both expressed what I did in my career and what I learned in school and why I was motivated to go to that job. And so it's not disingenuous to have more than one resume based on where you want to take your career. Okay. From the employer's perspective, you probably see, there's one other thing I wanted to say about, it's in this next section. So from an employer's perspective, you probably feel like your resume is going into a giant black hole because you don't hear anything back. It's because of the volume, and it's because your resume might not exactly match what the job ad talks about. So if you're using artificial intelligence, or if a recruiter is screening for certain keywords that are in the job description, but maybe they're not in your resume because you use a different word for it, unfortunately, we miss out on perhaps considering you for the opportunity simply because of semantics. Maybe we use the word, I don't know, laboratory, and you use the word lab or something. I think it would be able to differentiate, but I'm just trying to give you a simple example of where it's worth your time and effort to go through your resume and make sure that you pull out your experience that they're calling for in that job description, and you put it as, you know, your top bullets on your resume. It does take longer, but believe me, it's worth the time for you to look at that job description and to identify your experiences, your skills, your knowledge that applies to what they're looking for, and to make it very clear on your resume. This next one, responding to BBI questions. BBI means behavioral-based interviewing. And what that means is employers are looking for, what have you done in your past experience that demonstrates that you have a certain skill? And for you, when they're asking you to tell me about a time when, or give me an example of, you want to make sure that you use an example. And what I call, or actually DDI is the company that trains people like me in behavioral-based interviewing. And we look for people to give us the STAR response. The STAR response means, what was the situation? What was the task you did? What were the actions that had to take place? And what was the end result? When you do that, you give the interviewer a very good picture of your experience. In the back of their mind or somewhere, they're jotting down, oh yeah, they really demonstrated they've got the experience of working with, I don't know, an external provider and supervising, you know, budget and timelines or something like that. Next step, so I always think that it's important to follow up, even with an email, thank you. You know, it might be that it's not the right fit for you too, and that's a decent follow-up as well. Because just because you're not the right fit for one role doesn't mean you're not a good fit for another. And for people that I talk to, I always invite them, if they find jobs at AstraZeneca that I'm not the recruiter for, but they want to be considered for, please do send it to me. You've known me, we've spoke before. I'm happy to forward it to the right hiring manager or recruiter. I've read statistics that say something like 94% of jobs are gotten through networking. So make sure that you use your networks on LinkedIn. And that's my final piece in this presentation. What is your presence on social media? Have you done a Google search of your name? What comes up? Make sure that you, when you move from being a student to being a professional, that you make sure that your presence in the virtual social media world is professionalized. You don't want people making judgmental decisions on stuff that you know, was funny when you're a kid, but might not be appropriate in the workplace. And that keeps you wide open to employers rather than closing the door before you even have a chance to say hello. Use your professional connections. I can't stress that enough. And if you've got causes and passions, don't be shy about putting that on the bottom of your resume. At this point in time, U of A has a great reputation for a great school for the STEM careers. Put that on top of your resume, then put your experience, and then below that, if you want, you can put in causes and passions that you've spent time on. My husband worked in Appalachia, building houses for the homeless. You know, kids. Some people put on that they achieved Eagle Scout status. Those kinds of things, you know, or even, you know, intramural sports, either in high school and or college. It just demonstrates that you're collaborative, you can work well with others, you can play competitively with others. Those things are good to include. I would stay away from, you know, politics and anything you don't want your mother to or your grandmother to see about you in print. Uwe said that we'd take questions at the end. I'll just show you briefly that these are the 6 scientific platforms that the oncology R&D unit are currently working in to discover targets and develop modalities that might be able to break the growth cycle of the tumor. In early oncology, these are like all the different functional specialties. Let's see if I could move that. Yeah, that you could potentially work in. So let's say in school that you focused a lot on discovery and working in the laboratory and running assays and things like that. Those would be the kinds of jobs you would be looking for in your first career. If ultimately you want to jump into clinical development or regulatory affairs or another area that would be new to you, that wouldn't be the first thing that you apply to, because certainly as an employee of AstraZeneca, we support your development and we want you to do a development plan every year with your supervisor and take actionable steps to move around to different functions within oncology R&D. But for your first application and your first job, you want to make sure that you're targeting the positions that match the work that you've been doing in your graduate degree program. Does that make sense? All right. I've included on my last slide my LinkedIn URL, my AstraZeneca email, and my mobile phone number at AstraZeneca. And I invite you to take this information down and reach out to me. I will be happy to get back to you in due time. Sometimes it might take me a couple of days, depending on how much I have to get through. But I'm always happy to help out the students and help them break into careers in the life sciences industry.
Thank you very much, Audrey. I appreciate your status report from your work with AstraZeneca. May I ask you to end sharing, not leave the meeting, but end sharing, so that we have the screen available for Ms. Corton-Ray from HTGM. And it's interesting because I learned a lot from you for my own advising practice, including what I never thought about is, and that is your first job is industry, with industry may not be the right time to switch the path and the fields and the interest area for your career, but to really utilize what you developed during your education and internships and so forth, to actually spend the first real job you have building a foundation that will allow you to either within that company change careers or even move on from there. So I really like that, that basically show that try to continue on a trajectory that you build during your education and bring this to fruition at first in the company versus right away, oh, I'm also interested in that stuff. Let me try to fill jobs in that position. But thank you for now. We have already a couple of questions coming up in the chat for you to pick up on later. But I'd like now Ms. Cortenray to talk about what she sees going on at HTG Molecular Diagnostics, which is a local company. Take it away, Stephanie.
Great, thank you. So I am Stephanie Cortenray. I manage the HR department at HTG Molecular. As Uwe said, we are local to Tucson. We're pretty small. We have just under 100 employees. And so, you know, we are always looking for great talent. We often utilize the U of A, and we love this event because we get a lot of our interns from this event. So I'm not going to read all my slides to you. You can see that, you know, we're a life science company. We are cancer diagnostic and are getting into drug discovery. So we're very excited about some of the departments that we've just gotten started in the last probably 6 months. I put my contact information at the end as well. So I just wanted to take a look at biotech in general. And, you know, biotech is, you know, the 129th largest industry in the US. We've seen consistent growth over the last 5 years, but, you know, because of COVID, we're seeing a lot more hiring this year. We expect a lot more hiring, and I don't think that's just going to be in biotech. Obviously, it's going to be all companies. And I think one thing with COVID is with the ability to work remotely, we've all seen how well that can work in the last couple of years. If you're not a scientist or you're not needing to be in the lab, there's a great opportunity to be able to, you know, work for a company that's in the San Francisco or Boston area where the hubs are and still be here in Tucson. So I think we'll see a lot more of remote work, and a lot more talent is opening up to employers like us in Tucson, where we can't necessarily always compete for with some of the bigger companies in different parts of the country. So what we're looking for right now at HTG, we have lab technician positions in our commercial services lab. We're always looking for scientists in our research and development labs. We always want interns, and, you know, we'll do summer interns, we'll do during the school internships. We're open to part-time situations. We're really flexible. We have, you know, less than 100 employees, so we have a lot more flexibility than maybe a bigger company does with these kinds of programs. And then we're always looking for biostats, bioinformatics, data science. And then as we grow, and given that we're entering drug discovery, we see that we'll be doing a lot more with clinical trials. So we'll have some positions opening up with that. Obviously, as we grow, we'll have more regulatory and quality needs, and then also project management positions.
Stephanie, would you mind to move your slides forward, just maybe one after the other? We only see the first slide. Oh, I only see the first slide.
I am. Is everyone not seeing anything but the first one?
Yeah, I only see the first one. Yeah.
Thanks, Lucia.
I don't know what to do with that, since it's on my screen. I am moving it. So
you may need to unshare your screen and then make sure that you're sharing like your full computer screen, as opposed to just like the slideshow. Sometimes that might fix it.
okay, so what do I need to do? Stop sharing?
So I would unshare your screen temporarily, and then you can reshare and do like the whole, I don't know if you have 2 screens, but do the whole screen for whatever screen that you're trying to show.
Is that any better?
It's still on that it's still not showing the full PowerPoint. Okay, that now we can see like
The whole, but you can see the slides on the left.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just leave it like this then. So, okay, so skills that we're looking for, technical skills, you know, we're looking for someone who has a some kind of life science background. So we're really heavy in molecular and cellular biology. Chemistry is getting to be more important for us, genetics, really, you know, anything that's related to life science, biomedical engineering. We're also, if it's for a scientist position or one of our lab techs, we're really looking for someone who has a little bit of lab experience, even if it's just a couple of months, or even just the lab experience that you're getting in school is very helpful. So we'd like to see that on the resume somewhere. And then we do a lot of communicating with customers and among departments in writing. We since we're federally, since we're regulated, we have lots of business documents that we have to be able to have employees be able to fill out and write clearly and concisely. So we're always looking for, you know, good writing skills. And then from a soft skill perspective, you know, we're small and we often change priorities with some of our projects, or we want to let somebody move into another department temporarily and help out on a project. And so we want somebody who can be flexible and can adapt to that kind of change, and that really wants to get those different experiences. Someone who's going to be responsive in communications, especially when we're reaching out for interviews. We want to know that they're interested in us by responding to our email communications. We want someone that can show us that they have the ability to learn. So we'll often ask questions in the interviews that will help us see if you have been able to learn from something you've done and how you've applied that learning to something else. Always want somebody who can work in a team and likes to work in a team. And we really want someone who's able to speak up. So we have, we're very focused on our cultural values, and Audrey had mentioned that those are on our website, and we definitely will be asking questions about that. But we want someone who is comfortable speaking up, and that could be to the CEO, that could be to their boss, it could be to a coworker, and give and receive constructive feedback as well as you know, as well as appreciative feedback. But you know, we really believe that by getting better in improving, you know, in each area, improving what we do and how we come across to each other and how we work together, that's how the company's going to be successful. So we want someone who's comfortable in that kind of environment, that they want to speak up. When we interview, you know, we do expect that a candidate's going to have looked at our website. We don't expect you've memorized it, but it's always disappointing when you get on the phone with somebody or do a Teams call and you ask, okay, you know, what do you know about us? And the answer is they know nothing about us. So, you know, even if you just have quickly taken a look at our website, we do expect that. Audrey already mentioned this about being able to give real life examples when you're asked a behavioral based question. We want to be able to hear what that situation was, what you did, what your responsibility was with maybe a task versus somebody else's, what the result was, and maybe what you learned from it. We expect that, you know, you should prepare yourself for the interview by knowing what are some questions that we're probably going to ask, and then practice those with your parent or with friends and have them listen to it. Was it clear? Did it make sense? Did it answer the question? And then I'm sure everybody here is comfortable in Zoom or Teams much more than I am with obviously sharing my presentation, but you know, be comfortable that how you come across when you're on a Teams meeting, or if we tell you in advance that we're going to be doing a Teams meeting and we want to pick a time that works for you, don't pick a time that you're going to be on your phone in your car, because from our perspective, or at least from my perspective, it makes it look like you weren't prepared, you forgot what time we were talking, because on the phone in a car is just you're not going to present yourself as well as you would if you're on your computer screen. So lastly, I just want to say, if you have any interest in HTG, we do have some internship postings up. We have our positions posted. You can email me or go to our website, and I'm happy to put the email address or whatever in the chat once I'm done. that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Appreciate it. Let's get the next speaker up, and we have listed here Dr. Cosmeter, Jerry Cosmeter from Roche Tissue Diagnostics here in town. Roche is obviously a global company, but has a big presence in town up on, what is it? Well, Jerry is going to introduce himself. He can enlighten us. Jerry.
Thank you for the invitation, and certainly I'm very encouraged by the participation here today. The previous speakers have really provided some really good information that I think is in general very good for all of you when thinking about applying and interviewing for positions. I'm going to speak a little bit towards what Roche does worldwide and some of the specific things we do here in Tucson. So my name is Dr. Jerry Cosmeter. I'm heading up the U.S. Chemistry Solutions now. Roche has reorganized in a way where we're taking on new roles, and just as Audrey had said before, we're always looking to grow people and re-leverage the types of resources we have worldwide. So for now, I actually report into a group in Germany. And I have the ability now to work with people across the spectrum. So just even this past week, I had a conference call with folks in Switzerland in the morning, and I had a conference call with folks in China at night. And it really brings to bear the best and brightest of the world to solve some of the problems that we have. So Roche is an international company. It's based in Switzerland. We have offices in most countries around the world. Here in the United States, we have major places in New Jersey, in Indianapolis, California, and of course here in Tucson. The site here in Tucson is actually part of the tissue diagnostics business, which we're now called the Pathology Lab Solutions. So we develop both instrumentation and reagents to diagnose cancer in tissue samples. So things like biopsies. The type of work that we do here on site is varied. It's everything from very hardcore technical work such as biology and chemistry, a lot of engineering because we do platform instrument development. But we also have a lot of software folks. We have clinical, regulatory, quality support. We have a number of business folks on site. So you'll see that there's a tremendous amount of diversity and certainly opportunity for folks who are looking to either be very hardcore into their science background or the technology route. But we also have opportunities for folks that want to leverage their technology background and apply it to business and other areas where they think they might have more impact. So one of the things I want to mention is Roche, because it has both pharmaceutical and diagnostics. We do offer internships in multiple sites around the world, not just here in the United States. So, after we get off these calls, we'd be happy to point you in those directions. In Tucson, we have over 70 positions open, and a good chunk of those are internships right now. So I encourage you to look at that. Just speaking a little bit more specifically about the types of skills that we're looking for, we look for both the technical skills and what we call the soft skills. And it's been mentioned by both of the presenters before that culture is really important to us, passion is important to us. And so having the ability to do the science and the technology is great, but being able to work with teams and be able to do things in a way that you cannot do yourself is really where the magic happens. And as I mentioned before, for me to be able to collaborate with people across the world, one example is we were able to take the COVID situation and say, it normally takes us a couple, 3 years to develop a test for a virus or some other type of target. The teams in California worked across the world to come up with a prototype in 2 weeks, and we're shipping assays out in 2 months. And in Indianapolis, they geared up to the point where we were starting to ship out over 100 million tests a week to support the global effort. And that's just on the diagnostic side. On the pharma side, they're doing exact same thing. They were looking for ways to really impact people's health and provide the type of health that the world needed. And so I'd like to actually give this over to my colleague, Dr. Agler, because she can give us some more insight into some other exciting areas that Roche works into.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, so as you can see, we don't have slides. We just wanted to have a conversation. I've worked with Jerry for many years. It's been always a lot of fun, and it really speaks also towards, I'm a biologist by training. We leverage each other's skill sets, and we really, really highly value that in Roche. One other piece also I would like to encourage anybody on the phone is don't just think very narrow applications. Think more on a systems level. It's kind of how do pieces influence each other. It's a very, very important skill set because biology, chemistry, obviously anything that has to do with oncology and diagnostics gets more and more complex. So we're really looking for critical thinking skills that can be applied across a broad range of pieces to the puzzle is what I usually call that. In terms of what to expect in Roche, Jerry started to talk a little bit about we have a lot of internal growth opportunities should somebody join us. I personally just actually changed my role as part of our reorg, so I'm now project lead for companion diagnostics, which I find personally very, very exciting because you learn about regulatory. You're not a regulatory expert, but you know enough what I call to be dangerous. You have to work with clinical study groups. You have to really start learning about how a clinical trial is set up. So it's a quarter of a foot on the pharma side. There's a lot of international phone calls, be that internal or external. So there's a lot of growth opportunities in large companies, large corporations, like Roche, for example. So specifically, what are we looking for? Right now, there's a lot of growth in regulatory for sure. There is a lot of opportunities also for anybody who's interested more in clinical studies, be that monitoring, setting it up, helping, just making sure all the efforts that make a clinical trial get done correctly on time and with high flexibility. I'm going to be honest, things change. Also, just going to advertise your kind of your community college a little bit. Don't just think U of A. There is really, really good courses also that are offered by Pima College, maybe in addition to what you're learning at the U of A. To me, it's completely complementary. So look across the fence of what is offered as certifications. Certifications, depending on where you want to take your careers, are very, very important and can also get you that extra leg up should you choose to apply to Roche, for example. It shows that you're dynamic, you're really thinking outside the box. So those are some of the things I just wanted to add to what Jerry was already mentioning. So.
Thank you very much. That was exciting stuff, especially the reference to the broader educational globe, as opposed to like sticking just to the course catalog of the U of A. I like to follow up with a quick question on that. That is, do you have a course particularly in mind?
Well, okay, I'm gonna cheat. My son is taking Pima study. What is it called? Clinical study coordinator is, for example, one that they offer right now. So that really goes towards how our clinical trials set up with all the ethics committee applications, etc. So I do not believe those are classes that are very specifically offered at the U of A because they really go more towards certifications. And they also do not require necessarily 100% commitment like a bachelor's degree at the U of A. So think about, can you enrich your education with those types of certifications in parallel?
Thank you, Bert. I really appreciate it. It's really true. I'm working a little bit with Pima faculty, and there are definitely courses that you couldn't even get at the U of A. Those experiences would only be accessible to you if you would know what lab to seek an internship or a student worker position or something like that. But before we start the question and answers, please, the audience, please put your questions into the chat. I want to briefly see whether Russ Yelton had a chance to join us and can unmute himself and just let us know. He had to step out for a medical emergency. Our fifth speaker, yeah. Russ, you around? Okay, not today. So let me alert everybody to the fact that the Flynn Foundation has a huge project going on for many years now, which is basically the bioscience roadmap as far as industry, education, healthcare and whatnot in the state of Arizona is concerned. Huge amount of resources there to look this up. So Flynn, F-L-I-N-N, is the name of the enterprise. They are headquartered in Phoenix. Now, the other thing I want to do now before we go and dive deep into questions and answers is I really want to thank all presenters here, because it's really important to realize that these folks move worlds, whether that's recruiting students and new people into positions, finding the best talent around the globe, whether that is generating tests for COVID and for cancer diagnostics and whatever it might be. And then of course from the local as well as from the broader picture industry, like Audrey coming to us from AstraZeneca, which is headquartered more on the East Coast than here on the southwest. So I want to thank all four of you to really make that time, not only now, but to work with me in preparing this and presenting to our students and being now available for questions and answers. And then I'm sure beyond that, whoever doesn't mind to put their email into the chat in terms of allowing students to follow up. Not necessarily, do you have a job for me, but maybe really a little bit more questions along the lines, well, what's your experience about pursuing this, and how, there was not a whole lot of time, for example, now, which we did in prior sessions, is for everybody to really present how they got into the position that they are in now, which I found as a student very, very informative to hear these kind of use cases, because my professors, I knew how they got into their positions, but somebody outside of academia, that was always a black book for me. And so these kind of conversations may be possible also in the aftermath of our meeting today. But now let's go into the questions. And I would like to ask Amy also to follow up with me and make sure I don't miss anything. The first question that I saw earlier had been answered, and that is whether AstraZeneca has any R&D groups in Tucson, and there is a response to that in the chat. Basically, not currently, and but you see here in Massachusetts and Maryland, and we offer relocation assistance. Well, that's good. And then further down, let me see, to Dr. Cosmeter, you briefly mentioned that you also recruit internationally. I was wondering if you could expand on this. Especially, is it common for being on site in the US to be recruited for a position outside to the US?
Yeah, happy to respond to that. It actually works both ways. So as being part of Roche, we look for ways to leverage people's experience in ways that either, we can be more specific where, for example, we have people that will move to Basel in Switzerland at our headquarters, then back to Germany or back to the US. Typically, you get a contract if you go over to Europe, and for a certain period of time, you'll work as part of Roche in that regard, and they handle all the visa and living expenses and other things. And then when that is done, you can either look for other opportunities within Europe or another country, or you can come back to the US, depending on what positions are open. So I've known many of our colleagues who have done both. And I have a lot of great friends and colleagues that actually came from other parts of the world, were here in Tucson for a year or two, moved their entire family, immersed themselves in the business and the experience and the culture. And then they went back to their home country, or in some cases became general managers in another country. I, for example, know of a Czech citizen who was here in the US, was in Germany, went to Basel, then became a business partner in Singapore, and now he's heading up a large division in China. So it really comes out to, if you're open and you're really able to contribute in a way that is collaborative and really embrace the mission, which is for us to give patients what they need now, then those doors will open for you. And again, it works both ways, regardless of your nationality.
Thank you, Dr. Cosmeter. One question that has been answered, I just cite the answer here. No, Roche does not have a veterinary R&D and diagnostics unit, but let me see. Yeah, that's a general answer, not just for Tucson. And then there was a question as to like whether it would make sense to potentially pursue an internship / part-time position during the gap year that students and the pre-med track experience. Would anybody want to respond to that?
Let me take a stab at it. I would always say it is definitely a good idea to do an internship, especially when you have a gap year. That is obviously, that could be with a corporation like us, like AstraZeneca. It could also be with the medical school at the U of A side of things. They have terrific programs. There's a lot of things to be learned there as well, I'm absolutely sure. So absolutely anything you can do to just get more into that field, learn about it, learn about the processes, learn about what it takes to actually work in that field is definitely always a good idea.
Thank you, Audrey. And if anybody else wants to add to this, please feel free. In the meantime, I'm going ahead and respond to a question that was asked in regards to networking biotech near Tucson. Besides the student industry networking event, let's not kid ourselves, that obviously happens once a year. So, you know, to really have some network success there, it has to happen right away. But there are organizations around, the two major of which will actually be part of the next session, the student industry networking session at 4:30. And that's the BioIndustry organization, Southern Arizona, BioSA. They'll be waiting for you in a breakout room. And on the other hand, we have the AZ Bio, the Arizona BioIndustry organization as well. They're headquartered in Phoenix, and they will have actually 2 breakout rooms if nobody has a medical problem in the meantime. And but they're going to be there, BioSA, AZ Bio. So these are great networking opportunities. BioSA has student memberships, and I think AZ Bio as well, whereby, you know, not only are they very affordable, but they get you really on their listservs. Actually, I take that back. You get on their listservs without membership, without paying a dime. So join us for the next session, either or. If you miss it, then send me an email and I connect you with both of these organizations. For international students, yeah, that's an interesting question. Internships can be problematic. And so I'm wondering what might be options that anybody else, especially the folks that work with global employeeships, as to like what is there besides maybe the optional practical year that with some visa types can be pursued after graduation. Are there any additional tips from you guys?
Hi, Uwe. I did respond to that one. Divinash.
I see that in the chat now. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, they can go to the immigration office, the student immigration office, and inquire about an OPT visa. Right. Occupational practical training. I think it's good for a year or 2, and then a lot of times those people would go into an H-1B the following year. That is a lottery, so it's not guaranteed, but it is a career path that I see many students utilizing, many international students utilizing to their benefit.
That's right. Well, thank you for putting this into the chat, Audrey. Appreciate that. For international, well, to everyone, postdoc experience, Audrey had commented on that as well. Stephanie, would you, what is your experience with being positive towards applicants having had postdoc experiences as opposed to, say, applying for a position straight out of graduate school, say?
Yeah, so we have had quite a few postdocs that have come in and been uncertain if they wanted to continue in academia or go into industry, and you know, they've had good experiences. So we're really open. You know, we've had very good luck with bringing people on board straight from the U of A at all levels. You know, undergrad or postdoc, and so we're always happy to have that different perspective.
Thank you. Now, let's see, there's an interesting question here. How open are companies to hiring people, especially like in the bioscience, life science, pharmaceutical, medical industry, with science experience beyond strictly bioscience fields?
I can chime in with that. I will say that I have seen somebody with a geology degree move into a technical and people leadership position. I have seen people with a physics background, a physics PhD, working in an engineering and imaging science area. So the one thing I'd like to have everybody understand, the cool stuff happens at the interfaces between disciplines. So saying that I'm strictly a biologist or chemist or software engineer is limiting. What you need to do is open your mind to say, where can I apply this to really different, unusual ideas and different problems? And that's where things happen. And so if you came into an interview with Roche and you said, well, I have a physics background, but I've tried this and then that, and I've worked in these areas and I'm aware of what's going on, and I think I can help out in these places. I think it's been said by other people too. We train you. I mean, we don't necessarily expect somebody to come in and be able to do the job right out, because many of the things we do have never been done. So we're really looking for people who have broad experience, specialties that can help us solve problems that either we don't know anything about or we really don't have a good approach to. So I encourage you to really leverage those capabilities and ideas to sell yourself and make sure that you don't limit yourself by just what your degree says. I think the degree is a great way to get your foot in the door, but it's really how you behave, how you integrate and collaborate is really where the magic happens.
Excellent.
I would add on to that, Uwe, that we are really looking for someone who has the ability to learn. And so, you know, if we feel that somebody's background or education will allow them to be able to learn our technology, then we are more than happy to, you know, to hire them and see if they can learn it. You know, we're more, honestly, in many of our positions, we're more interested in someone that believes in our cultural values and that wants to work for us and that's excited about, you know, being involved in our technology. So
we really have some interesting questions here, being matched by interesting responses that you guys all provide is fantastic. So there is definitely the issue of being a foreigner and pursuing employment in the United States, or just experiences in the first place. And let's not kid ourselves. You know, I'm a foreigner, and I'm not the only one here among the little bit more advanced folks. And it is not necessarily always easy. The doors are not just open, because companies have to also adhere to quite strict regulations as to like how they are able to support people on H-1 visas and whatnot. So I would like to say something that Audrey said before, that she pointed actually out, that your first step might not necessarily be pursuing work in industry right away, but maybe really gathering experiences, building yourself up as a real, as a jewel that really is prepared for certain specific skills that industry needs, because not only will this make you interesting for them to fill a position, but it also would mean that they have much more arguments on their side to say that you are the only qualified candidate in the world and that you wouldn't take a job away from an American because they couldn't hire an American because they don't exist with that expertise. And that expertise, you don't necessarily have to go and seek an industry. It's a gamble, of course. You can't do lots of different types of things. The educational life is rather limited to 3-4 years or so. But in the realm of personalized medicine, in the realm of data sciences, and connecting that with a biological understanding of how the world works or a medical understanding of how the world works, you would set yourself pretty much already at the tip of the candidate pool with things like that. And we don't have that much time here, so I leave it up to the presenters to chime in as they feel a need to. But there is an interesting question here that I see, whether they see patient care as a valuable experience for students who returned to school for a career change in medical research and have no experience in laboratory research and maybe don't even want to pursue that experience, but patient care experiences working with people. How does that look for the industry? Are there places for these kind of experiences?
So I think I might be able to help a little with that. So in clinical development, we are working with patients, but they're really looking for people who are doing clinical research with patients. Occasionally, a pharmaceutical company will hire a field of like nurse educators, especially for roles that require, like, say the medication needs to be given via an IV drip. So they might go out into the field and talk to the sites about how to administer that medication and what side effects to look for. So like those kinds of roles, they might be called certified nurse educator roles, but also clinical research associate kinds of roles, which are located all over the country at sites that are doing our studies. So those are kind of roles that would work out for somebody who has patient care experience. And then I think it was Berthe earlier who mentioned, don't give up on the community college certification programs, because if you're interested in patient care and then you add that community college certification in clinical research, then you're becoming very attractive to the recruiter for those types of jobs. So you really want to use your curiosity, use your personality to create sometimes that opportunity for yourself by like gathering the skills little by little and building up your, if you will, portfolio of skills.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Appreciate that. Then there was an interesting question regarding changing into other areas in industry. I would like to comment on that briefly, because we managed in the past to also have a few supply companies like Thermo Fisher and well, I don't draw another example right now, but that actually loved to hire people with a biomedical background into their sales position, because they always said that little speak that you need in terms of finance and all these kind of aspects, and is easy to convey to you guys, but to teach somebody who is coming from the marketing and business field, to teach them about how DNA works is impossible. So in other words, you have a real advantage there as a life science experienced and trained person to pursue a career in areas that don't necessarily, for that aspect of the career, don't necessarily require more than basic knowledge. And I'm hope I can try to make this clear. You also don't need much more than a basic degree, a bachelor's degree, say in the life sciences, or if you go into other areas in physics, in machine engineering, or whatever not, depending on for what company you would go into the sales field, but you would know how to speak with the users. you would know how to speak with the people that have the same background that you have, but now you coming and presenting to them the best and hottest from your manufacturer and producer that you're working with to them. You speak the same language, you know the applications, and so you're very valuable in that sense. And so that is really a leg up. I mean, I had friends back home in Germany when I was in graduate school. They were already going over 100,000 euros at the time. It was amazing. So just, you know, it doesn't have to all be about money, but it's also about fulfillment, because if you like working with people, well, that would be another connection to bring your scientific background together with working with people and potentially having a lucrative position. I don't see any more questions that we hadn't at least skirted on in our conversation here. So in the meantime, we leave a little more time to see whether another question comes up or no. But I would like to give Audrey, Stephanie, Berthe, and Jerry a chance for maybe a last sentence. If you had any one thing to share that you really want students to take away from this session, what would that be? Who wants to start us off?
Take a stab at it. I would always tell people, reach out to as many folks and try as many different opportunities as you can. Even if it is, I'm going to say, in a job that doesn't exactly match what you want to do. Having an experience, for example, in an operations function is absolutely valuable. It is sometimes maybe not considered in that, unfortunately, I'm going to say, for my colleagues in operations, because it is an absolutely critical job and it gives you a very, very different perspective. For example, if you're working towards product development, that is exceedingly highly valued. So don't snub your nose at opportunities that might not read like the cool R&D job. It will A, give you a foot in the door, and B, it will give you an experience that a lot of your colleagues will not have.
Thank you, Berthe. Audrey is unmuted. Should I take that as a sign?
No, here. I was thinking of this, but I don't want to contradict what Berthe just said, because what she said is very good information. But I just want you to be, since I'm speaking to people in the West, I think I could use this little euphemism. I think it's better for you to apply for jobs using a rifle rather than a shotgun, okay? I want you to be more judicious about which jobs you apply for. To Berthe's comment, you know, operations, like I said before, that certified nurse educator, clinical research associates, those are all jobs that you wouldn't necessarily need a science degree for, or a higher level degree. But if the recruiter or the hiring manager sees that you applied for 96 jobs, you start to look like you're not focused. And I wouldn't want that to inhibit you from moving forward. So, I mean, it's fine to apply for 9 different jobs if you think that you've got the skills for all those 9 jobs, but just be a little bit more judicious on really keeping yourself focused on the different aspects of your personality, your experience, and your skills and your aspirations, and keeping it confined to that when you apply.
Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate it, because it also shines through that you said, and be judicious about what you share exactly with the recruiter. So thank you. Stephanie, would you have something?
I guess I would probably say to just be open. So be open to what kind of role you're interested in, or when you're reading, you know, a job description, you know, is it what you want? But I'd also look at the company. Like HTG is very small, but you know, a small company can provide the opportunity for someone to get a lot of different experiences in a very short amount of time. that you might not be able to get in a bigger company because we have fewer people and you get a chance to know everybody. Our CEO knows everybody, and so I think there's an opportunity to get maybe a lot more experiences in a shorter amount of time at a smaller organization.
Thank you, Stephanie. Very good advice. Jerry?
Yeah, just say stay flexible, and above all, there is no singular formula to getting a job. It's about perseverance. It's about staying positive and not worrying about the failures. My first job, I applied to over 45 targeted jobs, and it took a long time to get one. But once I was in, it's been a very good ride. And serendipity is your friend. You may have a path, but it sometimes takes you in a different direction, and it is still going to be great for you and your family.
Thank you, Jerry. And what I learned from Jerry also early on by himself and also by inviting me to the company, to Roche, was it really helps to be ready to look over the edge of your own plate. In other words, be ready to jump in and help, whether it's a small company, like Stephanie said, where you basically really have to do this, or whether it's a large company where you think you have your specialized job duties, and all of a sudden you notice, hey, nobody cares about like seems to care about you anymore. But that might be actually your fault because you never said, hey, can I help? Just can I help? Including maybe that you have to learn new stuff. You may not be the perfect specialist in it, but can I help? Hey, there's a simple question. Got me forward in my life too at a couple points. Well, thank you all presenters, as well as students, postdocs, and participants that joined us. Thanks, Amy, for helping us organize this session and getting all the Zoom technicalities in place. And I really invite all of you, but especially then the students, to join us for the third session, where we have a good 20 companies and organizations join us to be ready to speak to you in the little breakout rooms. Thank you all.
Thank you.
It was great meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you.